Chair. Mr. Chair.
I call
Chair.
David Shearer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm very pleased to be able to speak on this bill with my colleagues, and I also acknowledge Simon Bridges' creativity in initially bringing this bill to the House. And in many ways, I think perhaps it's got increased weight by, in fact, it's being converted to a government bill. There has been a number of high-profile, very tragic cases recently, which has obviously brought a renewed attention to the whole issue of animal cruelty. There's been the case of kittens being fed to dogs, of dogs being dragged behind cars, and of course some of the issues that happened on farms where cattle were allowed more or less to starve. When this legislation has been discussed and thought through, I was actually very surprised at the degree at which the SPCA has taken the lead in trying to bring people who have offended and committed inhumane acts against animals to the courts. And I'd like to acknowledge their contribution. It was a surprise to me that 90% of all animal welfare cases have been headed by the SPCA. And again, also, I think it's heightened the attention that has been brought to bear on the difficulty it is to prosecute the cases. The fact that only 10 ever have been jailed for cruelty against animals is quite frankly extraordinary, given just in the short space of time in which, in a sense, attention has been paid to this issue. The fact that so many have in fact been brought to light. So I think it's high time that we both toughen up the offences, the penalties, and also made prosecutions that much easier to be able to be taken against those offending. It has been mentioned, and I think it's perhaps worth linking again and mentioning again the link also from cruelty to animals and how that extends also into cruelty of humans. And one or two of my colleagues in the earlier readings have mentioned the fact that in the Humane Society in the US, in 50 of the largest humane societies in the US, 85% of women and 63% of children who were in those shelters had reported that there had been pet abuse or animal abuse in their homes. So there's no doubt that one flows, in a sense, from one to the other. I think the point that I just want to also touch on is the point that my colleague Carol Bowman also mentioned, which is the economic case for this piece of legislation as well. The KPMG released a report about 6 weeks ago now, where it looked at New Zealand's agriculture and said, where are we going to be in 5 or 10 years' time? And there's no doubt the demand for agriculture and certainly our sort of products, high protein products, is going to grow. But so will that demand will grow, but also the supply from other countries. And what it states very categorically and very importantly, I think, is that the difference that New Zealand will have in competing against lower, perhaps cheaper prices is the fact that our produce and our animals is both clean and green, but our animals have been treated ethically and have been able to, in a sense, wander around outside rather than being caught up in a small stall inside a barn. This will give us that price difference that will set us aside and will ensure and guarantee that we have a market in the perhaps the Europes and the United States type of markets where we will be able to sell our produce at higher prices. It's really important, therefore, that we can stand up and say these animals that you're eating or the products from which you're consuming are ethically, there's an ethical dimension, that have been ethically treated, well treated, humanely treated, and they have not been, as I say, cooped up in small stalls as many of the other animals are going to be, no doubt, in those other countries. And it's for that reason, Mr. Chair, I just want to mention that Federated Farmers, although it spoke in favour of this bill, wanted to relax the reckless ill treatment part of the legislation in its submission. I really think that both the courts and farmers are able to tell the difference.
I call David Garrett.